Well, thank you everyone for joining us today, and we wish you can have a very pleasant day with us this morning for the CMCA Exam Preparation Session. This is a free class, as we have said in the past. We have several people joining us, and so we're going to let them in as the time progresses. This meeting is being recorded so that it can be viewed at a later stage for those people who would like to view it again, or for those who may have missed out on this live session. So without further ado, I just wanted to introduce my colleague Waqar, and who is going to be, of course, doing this session with me. This is our second session. We had one last year, and we hope that you will enjoy it as much as we have enjoyed putting it together for you. Waqar, the next. So just a little bit about myself and my colleague Waqar. My name is Jeevan DeMello, and you can see that I've got many credentials next to my name, and so does Waqar. And one of those credentials that are important for us today is this credential, which is CMCA. Waqar, can you see my cursor as it moves?
No, I don't see the cursor.
Okay, you don't see the cursor. All right, fine, no problem. So as the CMCA credential,
can you see my cursor?
Yes, okay. I can see your cursor. So maybe your cursor. So the CMCA credential, that's part of my name. That's the one that we're talking today. All right. And we'll talk about what that is. Of course, I'm an accredited trainer in the United States, in the UAE, in India, in Bahrain, and many other places like Spain and South America as well. I'm a board member of the Community Association Institute in the United States out of Washington, D.C. I'm a board member of the Rotary Club of Dubai, and I used to be the Chief Customer and Community Officer at Emaar Properties, managing about 170 towers, 35,000 homes, and of course, the tallest tower in the world, Burj Khalifa. As it happens, today is my 4th anniversary. Today is the day, actually, I left Emaar in 2018, was my last day in Emaar, and I was just chatting with my boss this morning, Mr. Ahmed Al-Falasi, who was really my best boss. He was my boss for 14 years. So I had 15 years in Emaar, a great life. I'm also a consultant to many large organizations here like Nakil, Maidan, District 1, DR, Dubai Holding, Union Properties, RERA and Bahrain, King Abdullah Financial Districts, and many other such large organization. I'm an author of several books. One of them is in Spanish. Waqar, my esteemed colleague, is the president of the CAI Middle East chapter. All of you should be part of this chapter in the event you are not. And he's also the member of the International Management Board of the Institute of Real Estate Management, IREM, another very large organizations out of the United States. He's also the founder of Etihad Community Management, and a great organization here, community management company. And he is the author of this great book, A Practical Guide to Community Management in Dubai. And I suggest that all of you get hold of this book because it's really insightful, a lot of very practical tips. So congrats, Waqar, for actually writing that beautiful book.
Thank you, Jeevan.
Yeah. Next. So the little housekeeping rules, please. Number one, keep yourself on mute mode at all times. Keep your camera on start. You can, at this point of time, you can put it off. You can then later on at the end, you can put your camera on if you'd like. Please do not use the chat as your personal water cooler. We don't want to get distracted, but you can use the chat feature when you have questions and we're looking for answers, okay? If you have any specific question, you can send the chat to me, Jeevan, or to Waqar in a private message. That would be better rather than putting it in the group chat. But meanwhile, most importantly, this session is being recorded, so please do smile. The outline is very simple. We're going to talk about CAM-ICB. We're going to talk about CMCA, the purpose of the exam, the different knowledge areas, the typical test questions, resources, how you can really utilize so that you can apply. I mean, you can attempt this exam and pass, and of course, tips for taking the exam. So let me get started by telling you what is CAM-ICB. So CAM-ICB is the Community Association Managers International Certification Board. It's an independent, not-for-profit organization formed to establish and administer an international program for the certification of community association managers. Okay, it is a membership, it is not a membership body. CAI, by the way, the Community Association Institute is the membership body, and CAI Middle East is the local chapter of that body. But CAM-ICB is a certification board. Like in our countries, we have a certification board that has the power to grant the examination, to test the examination, to grant the certification. So CAM-ICB is a board. It's not an organ. So many people ask me, can I join CAM-ICB? No, you cannot join CAM-ICB. It is not a membership body. So CAM-ICB is the ones that actually create this exam. So the mission of the certification program is to advance and help and assure the quality of professional community association management. The goals are the following: to enhance the professional practice of community association management, to identify the body of knowledge necessary in that professional practice. And what that means is that every year, twice or thrice a year, CAM-ICB collects what you call experts around the world. I'm one of those people. Waqar and several other people are experts around the world, and they contact us and ask us, what type of question should we be asking that would make sure that the people who are applying, who are attempting this exam, truly know what they should know, and they should, that's on the basis they will be satisfied to carry out this profession. And twice a year they call a committee in the United States, and I've been a part of that in the past 6 years, where we get together from all around the world and we sit down and we create questions and we try to answer those questions ourselves. So those questions that come out are practical questions, but they can be pretty difficult. It also recognizes those individuals who demonstrated a satisfactory understanding of that body of knowledge. CAM-ICB celebrated 25 years last year, so it's been there for some time now, and it's really a worthwhile body. So this is what we're going to be talking about today, the Certified Manager of Community Association. It has certified more than 20,000 CMCAs. CMCA certified professionals manage every type of community: condominium, homeowners association, which is what we here do in Dubai, housing cooperatives that we don't have, but they have it in United States and other countries, resort communities, and commercial tenant association. CMCAs are recognized for their skills and fundamental knowledge that are required to manage community associations. So once you become a CMCA, you will have the right to use a CMCA designation, and you will get this little badge which confirms that you are a CMCA. It is the essential credential. It's the most valuable credential for community managers worldwide. It's recognized nationally and internationally. And as you know, in the UAE, if you're a CMCA, the chance of you getting a job is better, the chance of getting promoted is better. The same is true in Bahrain, the same is true in Australia, in South Africa, in India, in all around Europe, certainly in the United States, in Canada as well. So we've got plenty of examples of those who have done the CMCA, then they've done the AMS and PCAM, have gone to other countries like in the United States, in Canada, and several other countries, and have got jobs there. So they are our students, the staff that we had here in Dubai, who have migrated, and they will tell you their stories as well. So this is the essential credential, and it's the pathway to get the AMS and PCAM. So the AMS is the Association Manager Specialist, and PCAM is the what we call like the PhD of Community Association Management, which is the Professional Community Association Manager designation. Career advancement, increasing earning potential, recognition from peers, protecting the customers, and elevates the industry. So those are the reasons why the CMC is so important. Now, this is an important one. For a small investment in time and money, you can earn this certification and be recognized as the committed professional. Normally, this costs $315 US dollars, which includes the application fee, examination, etc. In Dubai, we are giving it for free. So it's only in Dubai that you're getting this examination for free, and you can take it. If you fail the first time, even the second time is free. Okay. Now, this is a big departure from the US-based CMC exam. So many of you have applied for the US-based exam. For that, you have to pay the $315. And if you fail, you got to pay $150. In this case, what we have done, we've got an agreement for the first 2 attempts is completely free. And after that is $150. Now, this has also caused us some issues that a lot of people have, subscribed to the exam, applied for it, and said, I'm doing the exam, but because it's free, they've not turned up for the exam. Please do not do this. If you do not wish to participate in this exam, maybe you're not ready, at least please contact CMCA and tell them you're not going to attempt this exam. It is very unfair if you have taken advantage of this and say, because it's free and now I just don't feel like going today because I'm not ready. It's not a fair thing because other people's seats are gone if you didn't do that. So we are going to stop this sometime for the next exam. If you do not show up for the exam, you will not be allowed to take it again, or you will be put on the backlist. So if you are not able to do it, please, at least 10 days in advance, at the very least, hopefully earlier, please contact CMCA and say that you will not be attempting the exam so that we give other people a chance. There are prerequisites, but the main prerequisite here for us in UAE is we need to complete the M100, any version. If you've done the M100 in Bahrain, in UAE, in India, USA, Spain, or South America, wherever you've done it, that M100 is acceptable. There is also a one-time waiver. If you have 5 years as an experienced community association managers, you may be granted that. However, despite you having that, I would still suggest to do the M100 because you get an idea of what this exam is about. And of course, to those people in the United States that have a CCAM and Florida CAM, etc., they might be good, but it's not really needed for us. Go ahead, Waqar. If you are eligible for the exam, so how are you eligible? So you can either send an email to me or Waqar, or better still, we will tell you, please contact CMCA directly, and then you can make an application. Many of you may have already received an email from CMCA, and that's why you're attending today. There are 2 types of exam. There's computer-based or there is paper and pencil. Right now in the UAE, in the international version, it's only paper and pencil. There's not computer-based. The computer-based is the US exam. All right. But if you want to do the US one, you are absolutely have the right to do it. I only suggest that it's very difficult, and therefore you should try the Dubai one first. Go ahead, Bakar. And what happens when you pass the CMCA? You will be recognized as CMCA in any country. You get a certificate from CMCA. You'll receive a CMCA badge. You have the right to use CMCA after your name, and your name will be registered in the directory of credentials professionals. The only thing is that every 2 years, you need to recertify yourself. It's not difficult to recertify yourself. You just have to do, just make sure you attend a conference like the IRECMES conference, or be a part of CAIMI, or do a complete, a few hours of study, etc. It's not too difficult. And with that, I'll hand over the stage to Waqar.
Thank you, Jeevan. Sorry about the energy drop, because Jeevan is very energetic when he's delivering the training. Jeevan, please take care of, people are still coming in and I'm constantly admitting them, so take care of that. So CMCA exam, so we are presuming that most of you have already taken the M100, and M100 gives you a good idea of what community management essentially is. Now, the way the CMCA exam is structured, they have identified distinct knowledge areas that a community manager should be proficient in. Before we go on to discussing those different knowledge areas, the exams that you will be taking will be 120 questions, and it will be spread over 2.5 hours. In addition to that, from these 120 questions, there will be some pilot questions. You will not be graded on those questions. How many? I think I have that covered in one of the next slides. So this is the breakdown of different knowledge areas and how much do they comprise the exam. So you will see the big chunk here is governance, legal and ethical conduct, which is 23% of the questions. And the smallest one is human resources, which is 6% of the exam questions. Now, a lot of, including myself, I wondered this, and you must be wondering, if we are doing community management, we are doing our job well, we will feel that we are proficient and we should not have any difficulty in appearing in the CMCA exam, and it will test pretty much what we know. That is a wrong assumption. What CMCA tests the candidates is on a comprehensive set of knowledge, skills, and knowledge areas. So even though our job description may not have something, different organizations have different job descriptions, roles, and responsibilities, and not every manager may be doing all of these knowledge areas. For example, some of the community managers may not be involved in human resources at all, and some community managers may not be involved in governance and ethical related issues, or they have separate property maintenance or management departments, so they are not involved in property maintenance, which is 11% of the exam. So the thing is, when you are appearing for this exam, focus on the areas that are not part of your day-to-day job, that are not covered in your job description. Especially read the theory, the text, the M100 manual, the gap series, which we are going to cover in the later slides as well, so that you are proficient in those areas. Because the things that you do on a day-to-day basis, you will be able to, you will be more confident in those. But the other ones, you need to be give some more attention to that. Now, the M100 is, I would say, simpler, a lot simpler, and CMCA is a lot difficult. That is why everyone is very easily passes the M100, but not everyone is successful in the CMCA exam in their first attempt. So CMCA exam uses a psychometric approach. They do not just test facts. The way they frame their questions, they give situations, and they test you on two bases. One is that you can analyze the information that is given to you and extract what is being asked, and then you should have the knowledge to answer that question. So the question will not be something very plain. It will be, the real question will be hidden somewhere within the words of the question. The other thing is the options that you will get in these exams. You will have distractors. These are answers which will appear very close to the answer, but somewhere in the question, if you will analyze it properly, you will see that there is a qualifier or something that disqualifies the distractor. So distractor is a answer which on the surface will appear to be correct, but it's not. I referred to the pilot questions in the previous slide, and there will be 20 pilot questions. So you will be graded actually on 100 questions. So if you see some question which is very difficult to understand, or it may be a pilot question, and you may not be even graded on it. So don't don't get panic if there's just keep your cool and analyze the question and answer them well. Already said that the M100 is way simpler. If you have passed the M100, it is no guarantee that you're going to pass the CMCA exam. Just to state the fact, I did not pass the CMCA exam on my first attempt. It took me the second attempt to pass.
Waqar, I would like to just say something here before you move ahead, is about the M100. Now, a lot of people, in fact, most people, after they do the M100 and they pass the M100 exam very well, 80%, 90%, 95%, and all this kind. People are very enthusiastic. Oh, I've passed the M100. I'm so good. I can very easily pass the CMC. And I just want to explain one thing. The M100 is not an exam to test your knowledge. The M100 exam is to make sure that you paid attention in class. That's really what it is. To make sure you've not fallen asleep, to make sure that you have, did a little bit of understanding of what is happening. So it's a very, very easy exam. Very few people actually fail the M100 exam. But the CMCA exam, though it looks similar and it's the same body of knowledge, they are actually testing you to understand your application of the concepts. So there is a lot of thinking to be done. And as Waqar pointed out earlier, there are many distractors. Many of the answers look the same. I mean, it could be this, it could be this, it could be this. And so there is a technique in elimination which Waqar is going to explain to us on how we should think. So there'll be a logic has to be there. We need to think logically, we need to do sensibly, and we also need to understand is that a lot of the questions are being asked here are not necessarily the things that we're familiar in Dubai. Because according to our Dubai law, especially Law 6 of 2019, several of these concepts are no longer in play. So we have to look at Law 27 of 2007 because that is a very similar law to the international law. Please remember, the CMCA exam is an international exam. It is saying that you're good enough to be a manager, community manager in any part of the world, not just in Dubai. And so the questions that are being asked of you are questions that are related to an international understanding of that situation. And as we go along, some of these test questions, we'll get that information very clearly. Go ahead, Waqar.
Just to add to what Jeevan is talking about, the international scope of the CMCA exam. So there is a body of knowledge that applies universally. And then there are some specific localized things. So, specifics of law number 6 of 2019 or fair housing laws in the US, these are very specific, which local candidates should be aware of. But when we're talking about internationalization of the CMCA, so candidates in US, Spain, Middle East, South Africa, Australia, everywhere, they will be tested on some generic international skills and knowledge areas, which may not be specific to each region. So even though as boards and governance is not really very is practiced in this region, but still that is a very essential skill or knowledge area for community managers, and they should be competent in that so that they can manage communities anywhere. And to facilitate, because each region, each country, they have different jargon. So somewhere you will call contractors, somewhere you will call them service providers, vendors, and think bids or tenders. So these are just few examples. So to eliminate this bias of using different jargon and help candidates not get confused just because of the terminology used in different region, there is a table which provides the glossary of terms and different versions of that used in different regions. A common example is that in the UK, when you table a motion, it means I think it means you are putting it something in your agenda list to be taken to be considered in future. But in the US, when you table a motion, it means you're putting something for consideration in that meeting. It is like this or the vice versa, but the table a motion means different in both US and the UK. So these are different, these are the words and terms that this bias is intended to be eliminated in the CMCA exam. So that's why there is a glossary which you should familiarize yourself. So if the question has any of those words, you should be able to understand that what it could mean in your context, and then you can analyze the question and apply the knowledge.
Also, Waqar, I want to state that having a knowledge of the international law is very important. Now, I travel around the world and I teach in different countries, as you know, but not only in the UAE, but also in Bahrain, United States, Spain, etc., and in India. And the laws are very different, but the concept is the same. Regardless of which part of the world you operate from, the whole concept of community associations are the same, even though they're called different things, right? So for example, we call them owners association. In India, they're called cooperative housing societies. In the United States, they're called condo associations or an HOA because they're different for buildings and different from horizontal communities. In Australia, they're called body corporates. So they're different names, but it's important for us as community managers, if we want to grow in this profession, we should be aware of the different names. We can't just say, because we live in the UAE, we should only be familiar with it. No, we should be familiar with the other names. So even if it's not the purpose of the exam, if anything else you take away from this, it's important for us to have a thorough international knowledge. It helps us to grow as professionals, and it allows us to be employable in other parts of the world. So just imagine, a lot of people have gone to Canada, as you know. When they go to Canada, you're suddenly saying, oh my God, I didn't even know all these things. So isn't it good for us to know these things when we are in the US? So please look at this glossary, because it's going to be very essential for us. Go ahead, Waqar.
And not just going to Canada, even regionally, going to Bahrain, Qatar, or Saudi Arabia and Oman, all of these countries have owners associations and community management, and the profession is in pretty much demand. And a lot of people are migrating regionally as well. And having the international knowledge helps, because even the laws and terminology in these countries, which are very close, differs slightly, and in some cases significantly. Let's look at the resources that are available for the candidates to prepare for the CMCA exam. So there is a CMCA handbook, which identifies key terms and knowledge areas. There is a study guide. These are freely available from the CAM ICB website. Then there is guides for association practitioners. These are small booklets which are available in print form, and you can buy the online version as well, the ebook version, from caionline.org. Then these FCAR best practice reports, Foundation of Community Association Research. These are also helpful. These reports are, I think they're available free of charge on CA Online. They may be paid, but I think these are free reports. There are webinars and videos sponsored by CMCA, which can help you understand the exam. There is a practice exam, which is a paid one. And then there are Quizlets and prerequisite course material like, M100, which you can, I highly recommend looking at all of them, because we are all professionals, we are working, and we have to dedicate some time. But this is a good opportunity. CMCA will really boost your career. So maybe give it a few days, go over the materials before your exams, and make the best use of it. Do not try to attempt the CMCA exam, without referring to these preparatory materials. These are some of the links we've got. You can scan them using your phone. We can send them all to you by email as well. We have your emails, we can share them. So the study kit is, I've mentioned the prices also. Maybe the prices have updated, but still it will be more or less in the similar range. And then this is the link to the CMCA handbook. Okay, so I think let's get to the knowledge areas now, starting off with meetings, and then we will look at the governance and legal issues, budgets, reserves and investments, financial controls, risk management and insurance, property maintenance, contracting, and human resource management. Just by reading all of these and developing competencies in all these knowledge areas, I'm sure you will feel confident in doing your job. You will know what you're doing and all the different areas that you need to be proficient in to do your job well.
Waqar, I just want to go back to that previous slide. I again want to reiterate this point. And Waqar said this earlier, that many of us may not be doing all these things. Some of us maybe only in handling maintenance. Some of us only handling budgeting. Some of us only meetings. None of us may be doing in HR, human resource management. But it is very important for us to really be a true professional, to know about all these different things. So we might be specialized in particular stuff. We might be specialized in budgeting or financial controls, or maybe we are FM people in property maintenance and so on and so forth. But it's important for us as community managers to have a general idea of everything, and that these knowledge areas have been put together by a group of varied professionals around the world. As I mentioned earlier, we meet several times here in the United States. We go through all these different areas and said, yes, in our countries, all these areas are important. And from that, they've distilled these 8 knowledge areas. So the process in developing these questions is very, very thorough. And it's many hours and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears go into this. So it's very, very important. Go ahead, Waqar.
Perfect. Let's look at, okay. So all these knowledge areas are mentioned in the CMCA study kit or the other one, the handbook. They're in a list format. So we've just used that list and put them in the boxes to make them, visually easy to understand. So in this knowledge areas, I'm just going to briefly touch upon these, and I will appreciate if anyone wants to give examples of each of these knowledge areas. Please use the chat box to share your thoughts. So roles of managers, directors, and officers at a meeting. So when we are doing a meeting, each of these groups or people have different roles. So as a community manager, we need to understand what is our role, what is the role of directors, even though we don't have directors, we don't have officers, but we need to understand what are the different roles of these different people. And also when we are doing owners committee meetings, having an understanding of these roles will help us better guide and control the meeting progress. Requirements for different types of meetings. So this is also essential knowledge area. Community manager should be knowledgeable of which type of meetings are required and when. So earlier you may remember, there used to be an AGA, there used to be board meetings, but now we only have owners committee meetings. So how many owners committee meetings are required? When the owners committee is established, how soon or what is the time limit for the first meeting to take place? Of course, these specific questions will not be asked in the CMCA exam, but at a generic level, they will be asking some questions which will try to assess this knowledge area. Election procedures.
Yeah, sorry, Waqar, I just want to add here, again, when you're doing this exam, do not think of the laws of the UAE or Dubai in particular, because here we don't have, according to the new law, Law 6 of 2019, we don't have boards and we call them owners committees. But you must understand the context of this. Please remember M100, where we talked about the board. The board is elected by the owners, and the committee is serving the board. So the committee is not making any decisions. They're making a recommendation to the board, and the board are the ones who are actually controlling the show. And there are different types of meetings. There is a general meeting, there's an extraordinary meeting. So even though we don't have these meetings here, because we are doing an international exam, we need to be aware of the different types of meetings. The same thing with the next one about parliamentary procedures, Robert's rule. We don't use that here, but it's important for you to understand what those meetings are. The same one goes to the next one about executive sessions, closed session. We don't have it here, but we need to understand. Waqar, talk about the minutes of the meeting if you want.
Yeah, that's a very essential skill. And the way things are progressing in this, I will just digress a bit from here. There is always a dispute between, even now, the owners committee and the managers of you have not recorded the minutes properly, and so this is something of always a bone of contention between different stakeholders, that they want the minutes to be reflected as they want. So globally now there is a trend going of hiring professional minute takers, and they, as an independent party, they record the proceedings of the minutes as a third party. So recording the meeting minutes, the format, content, retention, everything, what needs to be in the minute, what not need to be in the minute. This information is available in the M100. There is also a gap series on meetings and elections. You must be aware of these things, and only these knowledge areas will comprise 10%, which means 10 graded questions in the exam will be from these meetings thing. Roles and responsibilities of committees and subcommittees, mandatory standing committees, already Jeevan has talked about this. Meeting procedures, already Jeevan has talked about that. The right to call a meeting. Again, in the previous law, there was this, some 15% or 20% of the owners can, call a meeting or something like that. And even now, there are certain standards, or maybe the exam will give you some, scenarios or some bylaw text, and then you'll have to read it, and based on that, you have to answer the question. So that is there. Contents and preparation of board and packet meeting meeting materials. This is still applicable. Owners committee, you should send them the information in advance. So that's it. Facilitation techniques, presentation techniques, the roles and responsibilities of nominating and election committees. Not relevant here, but still you should have a good idea of what they are. So these are different knowledge areas in the meetings section. Let's look at a question. Which type of management? Okay, so this is not related to the meetings one, but I just put it here. Let's go ahead. Which type of management is the process of operating, maintaining, repairing, and replacing common property? If you want, Jeevan, shall we take feedback in the chat or?
Yeah, I think people can just put their this thing on chat, A, B, or just type A, B, or C on the chat.
Yeah, there is
so
no
we have an
grading,
understanding.
Yeah, there is no grading, but let's look at the answer anyways.
Just type A, B, or C.
Yeah, so I have already shared the answer now, facilities.
Yeah, most of the people are right. It's facilities. This is the easy one.
Yeah, so some questions that will come up, they will require some understanding. So I will just move, but if you don't understand the logic of any questions, I think that is where you can flag up. There is an option to raise hand or something, so we can get our attention. Jeevan can sort that out, and I can type it on the chat. Okay, so here is a question which relates to the meetings. Quorum requirements conflicts are resolved by A, state statute, B, the board of directors, C, a vote of those present at a meeting, D, appointment of a person as a proxy. So Jeevan, I will rely on you on how much explanation required or how much complicated the question is. If you will.
Yeah. So let's hear people answering this question. If anybody wants to answer it. So as we can see, everybody has voted for all of them. Some people have said A, some people are B, some people are D. So this is a question.
Which is confusing.
Which is a very confusing. So Waqar, let's see the answer.
Okay. So.
Or you want to explain?
Yeah, before, let's keep the suspense a bit.
Okay.
So, so there is a conflict about quorum requirements. Okay. So look at the question. So if there is a meeting and in that meeting now there is a conflict of whether the quorum is there or not. So how will that conflict be resolved? So let's start from the reverse order. Appointment of a person as a proxy.
Before that, Waqar, I just want to say what is the meaning of quorum, right? We need to have an understand what quorum is. The minimum number of people that should be present at a meeting to make a meeting valid or legal. So that's the meaning of a quorum, and this is true for any quorum of any board or any meeting anywhere in the world. All right, go ahead, Waqar.
So sometimes it is 10% of the members should be present at the meeting, or half the members of the board should be present in that meeting. So appointment of a person as a proxy really does not make sense. This is a clear elimination. So D has to be eliminated, because if you are at a meeting, just imagine you are at a meeting and now there is a dispute whether there is a quorum or not, should you proceed or not. Appointment of a person as a proxy does not do anything in that situation. Let's go and look at the option C, a vote of those present at a meeting. So you are actually debating whether there is a quorum or not. So those present at a meeting, their vote doesn't make sense. They can't, vote. How will you count their vote? Whether to have a vote, you should have a quorum. So this also will not make sense. The board of directors. This looks like a distractor, very near, because if there is a conflict about quorum, whether it's there or not there, maybe it's the board of directors who are in conflict, whether there is. So what is the authority that they have to refer back to is the law. Here it is said as state statute, but if you remember earlier, we had law number 7 of 2007, which had the quorum or the association constitution issued in accordance with the law number 27, which had the quorum specifications, you can say, or the minimum requirements of the quorum. So I hope that is clear now, how the questions are designed to test your understanding, not just of the surface knowledge, but you have to analyze the question, what exactly it is asking, and then analyze each of the choices and then go.
And we've talked about this in the M100 as well. We have something called the governing documents. And all these governing documents are the various documents that govern the community, take care of the community. And this starts with the law. The law is the first one. And then is the jointly owned property declaration, the constitution, and so on and so forth, right? But the topmost one is the law. Another word for the law is statute. And many of us get confused with these words. What is statute? We don't use this word here. It's a very commonly used word in the United States. Statute means law. If you don't know what the answer, you don't know what it means, look at the glossary, because the glossary will show you that this is what it means. And if you don't understand what it means, you can always ask the proctor, the person who's handling, what is this meaning of this word statute? Go ahead, Vakar.
So that is the star indicating the correct answer. Another one. Dash is required to be present for an annual association membership meeting to conduct business. Let's see what the answers are coming in the chat. So while people, oh.
No, go back.
Okay, sorry. So again, looking at this question, we need to first analyze the question. What type of meeting is the question talking about? Is it a committee meeting? Is it a board meeting? Is it an annual association meeting? So annual association meeting is equivalent to an annual general assembly. So at the annual general assembly, the quorum requirement, now let's look at the choices. The treasurer and the secretary. No, that does not apply, because whether the treasurer is there or the secretary, maybe the meeting is called to elect the officers. So having these people is not a mandatory requirement to have a quorum. B, a quorum of the members. This looks right, so we'll flag it. A quorum of the board of directors. No, at the annual general assembly, even if the board is not there, but the quorum is there, the quorum basically, so I'll just say it, the answer is B. All members of the board of directors, no. So usually this is very clearly stated in the statute or the association constitution, what comprises quorum. It will usually say 15% of all the owners, that is 15% of all the members, or 10% or 20% will comprise the.
Yeah, I want to add that the questions ask what percentage or how many members, because it's different for different countries. They will only ask you the concept. So the concept is for any meeting to be valid and legally allowed to, you must have a quorum. But there are different types of meeting. One is the annual association membership meeting, for which you need to have a quorum of the members. And then is the quorum for the board meeting, which is different. And in the board meeting, a board of directors meeting or the board meeting, you need to have a quorum of the board members. So people get confused here. So this word quorum appears twice. So quorum of the members is the right answer, but the quorum of the board of directors is the distractor. Distractor means there will be one other question that seems to be very correct. It seems to be correct. And that's the idea of having a distractor.
Yeah. If in the question, instead of annual association membership meeting, it said board meeting, then C would have been the correct answer.
Correct.
At the monthly board meeting, it is the role of the manager to do all of the following except. So look at the question. It says the manager will do all of the following, but one of these activities the manager will not be doing. So we have to identify that activity which the manager does not do. Implement the decisions of the board. I think that's what managers do. They implement the decisions of the board. Keep discussions on target. Yeah, this is something managers do, which is an important, meeting facilitation skill, that they keep the discussion on target. Call for a vote on an issue. This is a tricky one, because if you think about regionally what the practice has been in our region, the manager used to be the chair of the meeting and manager used to conduct the meeting mostly. So this is, I would say, a tricky one. Act as a resource to the board, definitely. So looking from the international perspective, managers do implement the decisions of the board, managers do keep the discussions on the target, and managers do act as a resource to the board. These are undisputed items. So the only item which is doubtful here is call for a vote on an issue. Internationally, managers do not do that. This is the job of the chair. Manager may not be the chair of the meeting. In some situations, manager may be the chair of the meeting, but this item is disputed. So the all A, B, and D, managers do that universally. C is what managers do not do universally. So at the monthly board meeting, it is the role of the manager to do all of the following except call for a vote on an issue. This is what the chair of the meeting or the presiding officer does. Clear?
And therefore, it's very important that we should remove our Dubai hats now, and we have to wear the international hats. Because if we look from a Dubai aspect, we might say, yeah, we do call a vote. I mean, there's no vote. We just tell them that this is the way it is and this is the way RIRA wants it, kind of. That's called the Dubai hat. But when you look from the international perspective, the association manager is really there to implement the decision of the board, help keep discussion on target, act as a resource. That means telling the board, okay, what do you want me to do? Let me do it. Remember, the board always does the policy and the manager does always the procedure. The board does the why, the manager does the how. So keeping that in mind, so the manager will never tell, hey, I want you all to vote. The manager will ask the chairperson, would you like to ask them to vote? The chairperson will call for a vote. Go ahead, Waka.
Okay, so this is now the most complex one. Governance, legal, and ethics. We don't get to deal with all of these in this region, but and this is very important. I think this could be the real culprit why a lot of people, are unsuccessful in the CMCA exam, because we have no idea of most of this, and this comprises 23% of the questions. So from 100 questions, 23 are straight away related to governance, legal, and ethics. And if you're not good in it, you do not have a good chance, because I think the pass rate at CMCA is it 70%, Jeevan? Yeah, so if you are not good at 23%, you are immediately out 23%. And so, this is I think the real thing. So laws and documents that govern an association. Let me just open this again here. The roles, rights, and responsibilities of the board and officers. So the previous question related to meetings, but when we look at these, and this information is available in the M100 and the GAP series also, there is there is a governance booklet. If you read those, understand the concepts, it will be easier. Then you have just the general skills of analyzing the questions, eliminating the choices, identifying the distractor, and that's it. Due process to enforce rules and architectural guidelines. I love this one. So many of the times we are not following due process. We are also sort of in the habit of arbitrary, make the rules on the go. Don't do that. Everything has to be, it should follow a due process. And what the due process is, you should have a very good understanding of that. Read the materials to get a good understanding of that. Board and manager fiduciary responsibilities, hierarchy of authority among laws and governing documents. This is very important. So there is a board resolution or an owners committee resolution. Then there is RERA circular. Then there is a RERA regulation. Then there is a law of Dubai. And then there is a federal law. So for example, the Federal Tax Authority's federal tax law or what is coming in future, the federal income tax law, will trump anything that conflicts with that law in a emirate law is not applicable. So this applies universally. So there are state laws, there are federal laws. So that hierarchy, a community manager should be able to understand that which law will trump the other one. Not as like a lawyer would know, but just to get your day, the daily stuff done. Sources of authority to make and enforce rules and architectural guidelines, when you make a rule or a decision, it has to be based on some source of authority. So the manager should be able to identify that, this is based on Dubai municipality guidelines. This is based on Dubai police rules, or this is based on this law, and this is where we are making the rules. Need for written policies and procedures, use, restrictions, and maintenance responsibilities in the governing documents. So all of these types of associations, basic requirements for occupancy restrictions, business ethics, conflicts of interest, and duty of care, and duty of loyalty. These are some concepts that managers should be able to understand, identify, and spot. If they identify a conflict of interest, they should be able to recognize that. So these are some very important areas where managers should, all of you should look at the M100 and the GAP series to get a good understanding of this. Also, I will recommend this, it's a bit of digression, that most people will attempt the CMCA right after M100. Nothing stops you from doing the M200 series, developing your knowledge and skills, and then attempting the CMCA. That will make your chances of successful CMCA even higher, because all these different areas are covered in the M200 series. So instead of waiting for your CMCA exam and then taking the next step, continue your education. So after M100, go for 201, 202, 203, whatever is coming your way, that will just help you in the CMCA exam.
I recommend this very point what you made, because a little bit 200 class we just finished in January itself, the 201, 204, and 206, and there were a couple of people. You can't hear me?
Yeah, your voice is breaking. Pause and then restart, because I think nobody understood what you just said.
Okay, so I just want to endorse this view, Waqar, we have, is that rather than doing the CMCA exam right after the M100, it would be better, because there is a waiting list right now. It's better for us to do the M200 level classes, because right and we had 201, 206, and 204, and there are some students who actually came for all three sessions. It was in 1 week. And the reason they said is because when we apply for the CMCA exam, we want to have this in-depth knowledge. And I believe it was a worthwhile exercise for them. So if rather than you just doing the CMCA just after M100, because I will tell you, most of you will fail for sure, right? Very few people actually pass, and it's to do with the understanding of the English language, or maybe pure luck as well. But I would definitely encourage you, rather than just attempt directly, please do 200 level classes if you can, and then move ahead. And now we have the IE Real Estate Institute having several of these classes going forward. So you can check their site, or you can contact me and I can give you that information. Go ahead, Waqar.
Perfect. So just related to the governance, the higher a document's place in the hierarchy, the greater its legal weight in a court of law. This is one sentence. The other statement is, the higher a document's place in the hierarchy, the greater its power with the board. The higher a document's place in the hierarchy, the more it is regulated legally. The higher a document's place in the hierarchy, the harder it is to implement. Now, I will tell you which one is the distractor, which I think is more it is regulated legally. That sounds like a distract. So first you need to know what the hierarchy is. Hierarchy is, again, board resolutions, associations, bylaws and constitution, state law, federal law. State law would be the emirate law, and then the federal law. So the higher the document's place in the hierarchy, that is, if it is a federal law, it is harder to implement than the Dubai law. No, it doesn't make sense. So we can eliminate D. More it is regulated legally. that sounds like, yeah, if it's a state law or a federal law, it is more legally regulated. Could be true. So let's say, okay, C looks like, it could be true. Greater its power with the board. The higher the document's place in the hierarchy, the greater its power with the board. Doesn't make sense. So if it's law number 6 of 2019, how does it has more power with the board? It is not logical. So we can eliminate B as well. Now between A and C, the higher a document's place in the hierarchy, greater its legal weight in a court of law. Now, which of these, A or C, sound like 100% logical and practical? So the correct answer to this is A, because this statement is without any logical flaw or doubt. C has some doubt because we are thinking and trying to fit that in that, maybe it is more legally regulated like the state law or the emirate law versus the federal law but it's just like it's a thought, but it's not really a factually correct statement. A is 100% factually correct statement. If there is any dispute between two documents, the federal law will supersede the emirate law. The emirate law will supersede the board resolution or a circular or something like that. So this is how it is. I hope that helped. Let's look at the next question. And also most of you got it right. Okay. Again, governance related question. Community association governing documents and state statutes may require who to be involved in preparing annual reports? Go ahead. A CPA. A CPA is equivalent to an auditor in our local terminology. In US, it is called certified public accountant. Here we just call them auditors. The owners, an ad hoc committee, the management company. Now, look at the logic of it. Community association governing documents and state statutes require who to be involved in preparing annual reports? The most common will be the auditor. The laws and the documents will say the statements have to be audited by an auditor because the management company preparing it's an obvious thing. An ad hoc committee, no. The owners, no. These people need not be involved in preparing the annual reports, though the management company could be an answer, but it's practically not happening. Nobody asks management company to be involved in preparing because they do the preparation, they do the bookkeeping. So if somebody is asked to be involved, that means that party is an external party because management company, remember, we are the ones who are maintaining the books of accounts. We are doing everything. So the key word is here to be involved. So if somebody is the main primary responsible person for something, they cannot be asked to be involved in that activity. If you are asking for somebody to be involved in that activity, it is a third party. So CPA or the auditor is the correct answer to this one.
So as you can see, very well explained by Waqar, all these questions need thinking. Even though I know everybody will choose A as the obvious one, but it may not necessarily be true because here the question is who to be involved in preparing the annual report. But if the question was maybe slightly different, who prepares the annual report, right? Then it will not be the CPA, it will be the management company because the management company is preparing the documents and the CPA is the third party who the state statute might require to be involved. And that's the difference, right? And so Waqar, thanks for explaining that very well. So there's a lot of thinking that goes. So these questions are very, very tricky. So just don't choose an answer because you think it seems to be right, because that could be the distractor.
What sets forth criteria for the annual meeting, including notice, quorum, voting, and proxy procedures? This is coming straight out of the M100, I think. If you have done that in meetings and elections, you would be able to answer that. I've copied part of the glossary, which is provided with the exam underneath, which defines articles of incorporation. bylaws, state statute. So these are all very similar, but there is a clear distinction between what is articles of incorporations, what are bylaws, what are state statutes, and what are parliamentary procedures. Any idea? Are we getting answers here? Okay, most of the answers coming are B and some C. Let's look at the correct answer. It's the bylaws. How? I will explain that as well. Articles of incorporation, these are the documents which are filed with the state at the time of the registration of the association or a company. These state the registered address, the capital, who are the founding people who are establishing this. This is the information which is there in the articles of incorporation. That's it. It is in one time. It says this corporation has been formed. Bylaws is the set of documents which tell how this corporation will be governed. So bylaws contain all the guides and the rules on how the elections will be done, the meeting, the notices, the number of directors, this and that. So that is all covered in bylaws. State statutes, laws will not always talk about all these procedures. In some cases they may, but it will be bylaws, because even if you remember the Dubai law, the association constitution, even though it was issued by RERA, but that was a constitution equivalent to bylaws. So they said, this is the bylaws everyone has to use.
I just want to say, Waqar, these are one of those tricky questions which are confusing, especially to us, because we are not used to these words. And even though we are used to words like association constitution, and in different parts of the world, they're called different things. Like, for example, in Bahrain, they're called bylaws. But again, in Bahrain, there's a twist to it because they're called joint property bylaws, which is also a declaration. So that's why in these particular cases, we don't have any choice but to actually review documentation, is to actually review the M100, look at the gap reports, because this can be a very tricky one, okay? So sometimes we get confused between articles of incorporation and bylaws, and we are not wrong in getting confused because we don't really use this terminology. But we know that this exam is being delivered from the United States. And therefore, we need to understand their terminology for the purpose of the exam more than we understand our terminology. So just bear that in mind. And that's why we've given you all those different resources available from CAMA SEB to get your mind in gear for this.
Perfect. Okay, so budgets, reserves, investments, and assessments. I think I will skim through this one because this is, I think, what most managers do on a regular basis. It will comprise 15% of the exam, and this is what I think. I think we spend most of our time doing the budgets these days, especially, right? So let's look at the questions. What is an aid commonly used for planning and budgeting the use of personnel? Let's see the answers. Okay, so mixed answers we are getting, and right. So I will tell you here, don't look at the question like on the surface. Look at each and every word in the question. It is there for a reason. This test, in one of the earlier slides, is a psychometric. So there are some psychologists, some scientists sitting, and they are putting these words just to confuse you, just to check how well do you think. So what is an aid commonly used? So this is a big qualifier here. If something is not commonly used, so that will be eliminated. So we are talking about an aid which is commonly used for planning and budgeting the use of personnel. So there is something which is commonly used for planning and budgeting the use of personnel. Now let's look at the answers. Annual budget. Annual budget is a commonly used tool, but is it a tool for planning and budgeting personnel? Personnel planning and budgeting could be part of the annual budget, but annual budget is not specifically for personnel. If you read the question, it is asking commonly used for planning and budgeting the use of personnel. Annual budgets cover everything: contracts, utilities, master community charges, and taxes if there are. So annual budgets are and insurances and cleaning and whatever. So annual budget looks like a distractor, but that's not the right answer. Job description. What does job description do? It identifies the task each and everyone will use. And then it is used for planning and budgeting of how many people we need to get the job done. So the correct answer, even though is job description, but I want to know why others are not correct. Manpower reports, there is no such thing as manpower reports. There is no commonly used aid as manpower reports. If you Google manpower reports, you will get all the different answers, different organizations doing something. Performance planning, again, it's not a commonly used aid for budgeting and planning the use of personnel. So the correct answer, which looks the least likely here, actually is the job description. When you write your job descriptions, then you plan how many people you need, and accordingly you budget for them.
So this is the one question that is very, very confusing. So when we put these questions, we also answered this ourselves. When I first looked at it, I thought maybe it's annual budget. Then I said, no, it sounds more like manpower reports, but manpower reports, we don't have manpower. Then when I put on a different hat and I exactly went the way that Waqar said, what it is companies for the use of personnel, it is only a job description, because a job description very clearly assigns tasks and says, okay, this particular person, this is his duties, that particular person, that is his duty. In fact, I'm currently doing a consultancy project where I'm exactly using this. I'm planning personnel for this company and I'm developing the job descriptions. And when developing the job description, okay, we need more of these guys, we need less of these guys. So the correct answer is job description, but I can assure you that most of us will get this answer wrong. Because if we just go and look at it, this is very simple, annual budget. It has to be annual budget. It's budget, but that's not the right answer.
Or manpower reports also sounds very good, but if you Google manpower reports, there is no such thing as a commonly used tool for this purpose. So moving on to financial controls, this also I believe is not a very challenging area for managers in our region. This is something we do on a day-to-day basis. Types and purposes of financial reports and records, the relationships between the use of financial reports and records, methods for determining financial health. That could be the tricky part, the accounts receivable increasing, decreasing, accounts payable management, differences between cash accrual. We use accrual here, nobody uses cash anymore, but there might be a question. So you should be aware of, what is the difference between cash and accrual. Audited financial statements, components of audit, review and compilation, tax filing. There were lucky days where we did not have any tax, but now we have VAT, and next year will be income tax. How will that affect associations and management companies? It is something that we'll have to constantly update our knowledge. Types of financial accounting and controls. So let's look at some questions. GAAP. So there are two global standards which are running parallel, at least which I'm aware of. There might be more. So generally accepted accounting principles and the international financial reporting standards, the IFRS and the GAAP. So in US, mostly they use the GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles, and elsewhere also, and in more places where more compliance is required, the IFRS, which are more complex, they are used. So for this purpose, it really doesn't matter. Here, the question is not that we should be aware of the IFRS standards or the GAAP standards. This is a very logical question. The real thing that they want to ask you is about something else. It's not about GAAP. So let's look at the question and your answers. Let me open the chat and see. So, okay, we are getting A, B, Okay, so I get confused whether these are previous questions or new ones. So B, okay.
Yeah, they're mainly A's and B's, lots of A's and B's.
Okay, so let's look at the question again, try to understand. Gap requires which statement? So now the first thing that we are looking for a statement for year-end reports for a community association. So let's look at the A, B, C, D. Which of these are statement? Which is a statement? Cash flows statement. Yes, there is a cash flow statement. It's a thing in the accounting. Auditing statement. Illogical, doesn't make sense. Eliminate. Compilation statement. Doesn't make sense. There is no such thing as compilation statement. Budgeting statement. Doesn't make sense. There is no budgeting statement. So the only correct answer in this is cash flow statement, because that is a statement which is, if you will see your audited financials, it's always there. So cash flow statement is a thing, and that is what they're asking.
The rest of auditing, compilation, budgeting, they're all processes. They're not statements. So again, we have to look at the question. Gap requires which statement for year end? Cash flow is the only right answer. The others are completely wrong. Even though logic, when you first look at it, you think auditing, right? Oh, you need auditing, but auditing is not a statement. Auditing is a process. So we have to distinguish between what is a process and what is a statement. The only right answer here is cash flows.
And if, just to add to the confusion, if they replace GAAP with IFRS, or say the accounting standards of Mars, Jupiter, and the galaxy, still the answer will be easy, because there is only one statement which is cash flows in the answers. So this mention of GAAP over here is sort of, it's just to confuse you, because if you're not aware of GAAP, you can still answer the question, because the only statement available there is cash flows. Risk management and insurance. Okay, let me admit Dimple. 11% means 11 questions will be coming from this area. Even though we are very familiar with the insurance and concepts here, but there are certain insurance concepts which are not practiced in this region. For example, the co-insurance. In my 10 years of experience, I was only offered once a co-insurance, that two insurances were offering me to, not two, but actually one offered me that they will insure the building if there is another insurance company which will co-insure. So otherwise, co-insurance is not very popular here, but there are concepts in insurance which are not practiced in the region, but we must be aware of them, or the nomenclature is different. Okay, fidelity insurance provide coverage to ensure that the board will meet its fiduciary obligations. Fidelity insurance provides coverage to ensure that the manager will faithfully follow all document provisions. Fidelity insurance provides coverage to ensure that the association will be covered for shortfalls in the reserve accounts. Fidelity insurance provides coverage to ensure that the association will recover any funds lost through employee dishonesty. Now, if you analyze all these choices and think about, everyone has almost got it right. The correct answer is D, because the other three don't make sense, because there is no insurance policy that will cover the shortfall in the reserve account. It's not an insurable thing. That is something the management has to do, and if there is a shortfall, you have to ask for a special levy, special service charge to cover the shortfall. So insurance companies don't do that. So C is illogical. B, manager will faithfully follow all document provisions. Also doesn't make sense. What if the manager does not follow the documents? Will the insurance do anything? Insurance always covers a risk or a loss. So if you see, board will meet its fiduciary obligation, there is no loss or risk here. So how will the insurance, what specific loss is the insurance covering here? It's not clear. So the only specific is any funds lost through employee dishonesty. That's a very specific loss or risk that is mentioned here. And other than that, if you have read the insurance documentation, you will clearly know that fidelity insurance talks about embezzlement and dishonesty.
In fact, the word fidelity, the other word for fidelity means honesty. So fidelity means honesty. And here what they're saying is association recover funds lost through employee dishonesty. And fidelity insurance is typically, by the way, it's in all of our companies, we have fidelity insurance. And it's typically for employees. It also can be for board members, but it's typically for employees who are connected with money. So who are, cash, who collect cash, who do bank transfers. So it covers employee dishonesty. This is a very, very clear one, even though some of the other answers may seem close.
Property maintenance. This is, I think, a short and sweet topic. 11 questions. I think everyone has a good chance here. We are familiar with maintenance. It's more or less the same. Division of maintenance responsibilities between the association and the owners. This is universal, so there is no specific regional, or international thing to be worried about. Maintenance requirements for property and equipment, types of maintenance, that is routine, preventive, requested emergency, scheduled, control procedures for protecting physical assets, laws and requirements pertaining to environmental issues, relationship between operating, reserve, and capital budgets, work order systems, laws regulating maintenance activities. Let's look at some questions. Periodic maintenance performed to avoid disruptive breakdowns and to prolong the useful life of a physical asset is considered A, routine maintenance, B, requested maintenance, C, emergency services maintenance, D, preventive maintenance. So looks like everyone has got that right, D. So preventive maintenance is what is performed to avoid disruptive breakdowns and to prolong the useful life of a physical asset. By the way, routine maintenance could be here, as a distractor, but preventive maintenance is the correct term and a universally accepted term. What is a typical management control used to identify physical assets? Checklist. Checklists are used in processes. Here we are looking at a control used to identify physical assets. We are not looking at a process, right? So I think checklist needs to be eliminated. Charts of information. Now look at the typical management control. If you look at typical management control, there is no such thing as charts of information. It's a made up thing, not applicable. Inventory, that is a typical management control. So that is something that is it's the right answer. But before that, we look at the D as well, calendar or schedule. So this is not talking about any calendar. The question is asking typical control used to identify physical assets. If there was an asset register mentioned here, which is also an inventory, that is also another term, inventory or an asset register. These are the correct answers. If we look at, so we got most of them answered, most of you answered C, which is good. All of the following are goals of maintenance in a community association except. So the activities listed below, these are the goals of maintenance. One of these will not be related to goals of maintenance. Meeting the needs of the residents. Okay, confusing, but I will just move on. Preserving and enhancing the common property. This is very relevant, so I'm very sure this is a goal of the maintenance, to preserve and enhance the common property. So B is eliminated. Now I have to decide between A, C, and D, which is not the goal of maintenance. Limiting injury to residents, guests, and employees. This also sounds right, because of maintenance, we try to limit injury to residents, guests, and employees. So yeah, this is also one of the goals of the maintenance. So let's eliminate C as well. D, increasing the association's profits. This sounds really illogical. So this is really not the goals of maintenance to increase the association's profits. So now that I had a doubt in my mind whether meeting the needs of residents is like, I was having a doubt. So that is, yeah, definitely that's the goal of maintenance. With maintenance, we meet the needs of the residents. What we don't do is increasing the association's profit. So read the question again. All of the following are goals of maintenance except increasing the association's profit. So the answer to this question is D.
Also, this is also another thing that to consider, that owners associations are not for profit. This is again an international concept, also applicable to Dubai. The goal of the association is all those A, B, and C. It is 100% not D, not only for the other reason, or even if it says, if it to save money, it will still be incorrect. Now, why me? Now, some of us might say, but aren't we supposed to deal with owners? And this, the first is residents. No, we have to look at residents, guests, and employees. So it's everybody, whatever the residents want, we have to meet their needs, whether they are owners, whether they're occupants, or whether they're the wife of the owner, the mother-in-law of the owner, nephew of the owner, whatever it is, it's our duty as an association to meet everybody's needs. But D is definitely the incorrect one. So that's the one that you have to choose because of this word except.
And as we are progressing towards the end of our session, this is not the end. We are progressing towards the end of the session. So words are very important. We will, Jeevan, correct me if we will stop sharing the screen and we will have everybody turn on their cameras,
Yes.
switch on their cameras, and we'll take a snapshot to memorize this workshop.
Sure. And then we'll have a Q&A session. Are we done with the questions, Waqar, or we still have a few more?
A few more.
Okay, so we'll go through a few more, and then we are going to ask everybody to join in for a group photo, and of course, then we will do a little Q&A. So please don't leave. We will extend it for a little while more.
I just gave a heads up because some people may need to comb their hairs or, put on a shirt. Yeah. So contracting is 13% and human resources is 6%. Human resources, even though we don't do it, but it still is less risky, but still go through it. It's not a lot. And contracting. And by the way, when you will do it, you look at stuff, you will feel more confident in doing your jobs. So it's all about learning, and getting the knowledge. Contract negotiation, preparing the proposals, criteria to determine whether to retain contractors or use association staff. This will be a tricky one because in this region, communities or associations do not employ staff. So we have AMCs, we have maintenance contracts, we have service provider contracts, everything is contracted. However, there is still a difference. Like the cleaning contracts we have, it is like, we are getting the staff, full-time employed staff. Contracts or contractors, they are mostly referred to in the sense of output-based contracts. So when you have a fit out, for example, you want to refurbish the lobby or something. So that is something you cannot ask your on-site maintenance staff, you'll have to get a contractor. It's a specialized job. And usually for that, you will not specify the number of people. A fit out contractor to do the modification, they will get the number of people that, they feel suitable and they will remodel your lobby. So slight difference here again, to understand our AMCs are similar to association staff because the staff is full-time deputed, even though they are not on the visa and direct employment, they are sort of subcontracting, but we get, the staff. So that is similar to having association staff, very close. And contractors is what we do for one-off jobs, getting a contractor to do the facade cleaning. So those contracts will be mostly not staff based. So they will say, we will clean your facade. I know sometimes they will say, we will give you 2 cleaners in the cradle and they will continue, but mostly it is output based. Or even when they have these kind of things, they come in for a limited time. So our regular cleaning and MEP, they are, full-time deputed and they are just running. So very similar to having this oxygen staff. So let's move on to the questions related to these two topics. When a contractor fails to perform to the terms of the contract, which provision in the contract allows the association to terminate? Default provisions, warranty provisions, insurance provisions, performance provisions. Now, this is really confusing. If performance is not there, we can terminate. If he's not doing the job, warranty, but warranty only comes in after the job is done. So when the contractor is doing their job, warranty will not kick in. So my first guess to eliminate something will be warranty provisions. Insurance provisions also, because insurance provisions is like, you usually say the contractor, I don't know if it's even a thing, but in a contract, it will say the contractor will get some insurance to do the work. It is not failure to perform. Now I'm confused between performance provisions and default provisions, and I'm honestly confused. But I'm not sure if there are certain performance provisions or performance clauses. There are in contracts. Jeevan, do you want to help him? Or
So here,
default?
this is another tricky one. This is another tricky one, even for me. So when you look at it the first time, because there are two things here. There is when a contractor fails to perform. So there is a failure and there is a performance. There are two things over here, right? But when you're saying performance, we are talking about something a little bit differently. Is performing to the standards. That's the way I look at it, right? Is performing to certain standards. So perform to BIC standard, BIC is British Institute of Cleaning Standards, or perform to a particular standard. But here is the contractor fails to perform, right? And what is a failure? And I can see people changing their answers. Everybody had D before, but now I've started explaining, or people are beginning to realize that what is a failure, right? Another name for a failure is default. So Waqar, what's the right answer?
It is default. I knew the answer, but again, when
I didn't know the answer as it happened. I didn't know the answer, right? But for me, what is failure? Another word for failure is default.
Yes, and so yeah, go ahead, Jeevan.
And so to me, it makes when a contractor fails to perform to the terms of the contract, because in the contract, there will be a provision called default. Default means failure. And what is that failure will be listed in the contract. If I look at this contract and I see this default provision, it tells me what are those different things that if they fail to perform, I can terminate them. Then it's very clear to me that's the only provision that makes sense. Because performance is to do with, are they going out with standard of performance, ISO 9000, OSHA's, and if 50,001 and BIC standard. Those are standards, but it's not really a failure. So to me, it has to be A.
Yeah. So, and whenever one of the parties, they fail to uphold the contract, or they do not fulfill their obligations, they're in default. So either party defaults. So the default provisions will allow the association to terminate the contract. And that is correct. So in which procedure are performance problems, this is related to HR, brought to the employee's attention and action taken to correct them? If you have not read the M100, I think this is covered in M100, you will not be able to answer, because there is no logical thing to this is not something we do on a daily basis and we can rely on our experience to come up. So this is a specific term which is in the M100, which you should get it from there.
Yeah, and we use a different word for this, and we can talk about that word in other parts of our course and of our daily daily lives. It's not actually mentioned here, but it is something. So most of us will probably get this wrong. So let's understand, let's see what people have said first, and then we can go. So a lot of people have said D. Many people have said C, some people have said B, nobody's choosing A. So let's go ahead, Vakar.
Yeah, so employment model definitely doesn't make sense. In which procedure are performance problems brought to the employee's attention? So continuous improvement program, if a lot of people are saying, so when I'm thinking logically, continuous improvement program has nothing to do with employee performance. That could be an overall organizational thing, continuous improvement. So continuous improvement does not specifically deal with performance problems of an employee and taking corrective actions, correct? Continuous improvement is that the organization keeps looking at ways to improve. These are not performance problems. So you can, based on that logic, eliminate D. Let's look at C, employee training program. So employee training program, again, it's a development thing, but it's not related to performance problem. Employee training is not like, you have a problem with one employee and then you send them on a training to fix that. Training is a broad term. So you may send your best performing employees for training to further improve. But in the question, what we are looking at is a problem. Somebody has got a performance problem. They're not performing as they should. So C, employee training program is not specifically related to employee performance issue and telling them in the training, you don't tell, you have this problem, you need to fix and take this correct actions. So C can be eliminated. So now we are just left with what? B, sorry, progressive discipline system, which is the correct answer. So even if you had not read the thing, even though this sounds the least likely to be an answer because I had never heard of this thing in my life, but still, you should either be very confident that you've read, or you can eliminate the question and still there is a possibility that you will reach the right answer.
So there's another term for this which we use called due process. If many of you have attended my classes, we always talk about due process. Due process is this progressive discipline system. What it means is just because you made a mistake one day, you're not going to be terminated. You will have a friendly discussion. The next day, supposing you don't turn up to work, you will have a friendly, your boss might come and tell you, hey, the third time you don't turn up to work, you'll get your first warning letter. The fourth time, you'll get your second warning letter. The fifth time, you'll get your third warning. Then you will get terminated, right? So this is called a progressive discipline system. It's also called due process. Same thing with the customer. Customer doesn't pay service charges on time. First time, you'll send a friendly warning. Then you will send another friendly warning. Then you might send a RERA letter, or then you will go to send him, what you call an execution notice or a notice of violation. So these are all what we call progressive discipline.
Just with the due process, given an interesting point. So now the law is very clear when you are sending these collection, and we are sending notices from the RDC. But what I just realized over the last few weeks that maybe some of the managers are overusing these mullak notices and the rental dispute center, ijari blocks and execution. Before doing that, you should always send a very polite and courteous communication to the customer that maybe some of their payments that they made are not in the statement. We have missed out. Maybe it's the management company's mistake, or they are facing some sort of a problem and they would like to do a payment plan or something. Then you go on to these harsher measures. Just a little point I thought I'll share on due process. Based on which type of requirements would you choose a contractor over the association to complete work? So when they say over the association, they mean this association staff, like without getting a contractor. This contractor, do not mix it with our AMCs, most of the MEP or cleaning, because they are basically staff contracts. They've deployed the staff. And this is also straight out of M100. I think it's chapter 10, page 237 also, and 38. So what are the answers that are coming up, or people are just?
Now, this could be also something that we are not used to. So now we need to just think from the question, what is the best case scenario over here that makes logical sense, even though we may not personally, because we don't have, the association doesn't do the work themselves, right? So that's the thing.
So
Go ahead, Waqar. Yeah.
I will give an example. You need to paint a wall 1 meter by 1 meter. So that is one little work. Would you ask the association staff to do it, or you will get a contractor to come and paint that? I think most of you will say, you'll just ask the on-site team, just spare some time and paint this area. But if we have to remodel the lobby, so that is a big job, is an extensive work. We will not ask our own building staff to do that. If something is, we need something quickly, like, fix a tile, paint, going a little bit of extra out of their scope of work, but they can manage that. So something is urgent and something is not complex, it's not for a longer duration, we will get our staff to do it. But if something is not urgent, that is, we have more time and the job is big and complex and it will take a long time and expertise, then we go to a contractor. So let's look at the options. Low urgency. Okay, so it's not urgent. Costs, adequate, tools available. I don't know how that makes sense, but choose a contractor over the association to complete the work. So if it is not urgent and costs and adequate tools are available, doesn't make sense to me. I will park it on the side. I have to select an option where I will choose a contractor over the association. High urgency, low supervision and training possibly needed. So something is required now, like urgent, and it also requires low supervision. That means it's a simple job. Training possibly needed, not necessarily or mandatorily needed. I will keep B as my possible answer. I'll look at C. Requires supervision, expertise required, and low urgency. So this job requires expertise, not possibly requires expertise. It requires expertise. It is not urgent. We don't need it immediately. And it requires supervision also, that somebody has to monitor it. This looks like the correct answer. Let's look at D. Low cost, high urgency, and borrowed tools. So it is something cheap and it is needed urgently, like you need to just brush up some paint. And borrowed tools doesn't make sense, but you can borrow the tools, like you can borrow the paintbrush or something from somewhere and finish the job. So most likely D, you will get it done from your in-house team. So the correct answer, let's see how many people have come to the right conclusion. C, very good. You are all set to pass the CMCA exam. Done. Jeevan, do we have more time?
We don't have more time, Waqar. So we've got about 15 minutes more. So we can skim through the others very quickly without laboring too much on it, because we need to take a group photo. And also we want to open the questions for a lot of people. All right. Okay. So let's
take the group photo first and then you finish off the exam thing.
Yeah.
I'll stop sharing. And
are you done with all the questions, Waqar?
Yes, the questions are done. Now you can just give them a brief on how to answer the actual exam.
Okay, so I'm just going to give you a brief to how to answer the exam, and then we can proceed with a group photo. Any questions? Waqar, just move the slides. So page 17 of the study guide will give you the study guide is free, I'm assuming. I can't recall. Waqar, it is free. Yeah. Okay, move ahead. The key terms, you'll get it from there, all the different glossaries and understandings. And please, these are the things you need to do before the exam. This is very important before we open the questions. First of all, you must take along with you a government ID, the passport, Emirates ID, or driving license. You must only use pencils, B or 2B pencils, and bring erasers. You cannot use a pen. Ensure that you put your phone on silent or keep it away. Do not keep books or non-exam papers on your table. It will be confiscated and you may be disqualified. Do not talk to others during the exam. It's very essential. There are several documents will be. One is a demographic question, and this will not take your time because your time will only start once you start the exam. The demographic question is just about you, how many years experience. Glossary of terms, very essential document. You must read this glossary of terms because if you're confused in any terms, that's where you'll get it. Fill only the details as directed by the proctor. The proctor is the person who will be going through this exam with me, telling you what to, please listen to him or her. Use the comment form. Sometimes, just go back to that previous slide. Use the comment sign form is very important because if there are certain questions you can't understand, you need to put it in comment form because it will be sent to the examiner and they will check, they'll say, yes, indeed, this question is very complicated. Nobody can understand. They might just give you the passing mark for that question, even if you answered wrong. And then finally, you have to give back all the papers you've received from the proctor, including the blank sheets, okay? A couple of tips for answering the exam. This is going to be an exam paper. Can you see how you need to just fill in the right answer? So you got to take your pencil. You don't really have to write anything down. As you can see, you have to put your name there, your family name first, your first name, and then your initial if you have a very long name. And then you have to just, so question number A, you have to just, on the left-hand side, you'll find this is the demographic questions. And on the bottom, you'll find again your demographic questions, your identification questions. Now, when you come to the right-hand side, that's where you are going to answer. So question number 1, you have to choose A, B, C, or D. So in this case, I've selected C. Question number 2, A, B, C, or D. I've decided D. Question number 3, A, B, C, or D. I have selected B. Question number 4, A, B, or C. I've selected B, and so on and so forth. This is the way, and you have to answer all your 120 questions or so. And of course, there will be the back side as well. Please do not make a check mark or cross. You need to have it completely filled in. If you've made a mistake, please erase it. If there's too many mistakes, ask for a new sheet. Don't try to use the same sheet because these are all scanned by the computer. So if they see holes, if they see the thing, the computer will not scan it properly. Next. Next, click it. Oh, so just one more thing before we move on this, and I always tell this question. If you have to answer all the questions, don't leave any questions unanswered. There are no marks, there are no minus marks for wrong answers. So if there's any question you don't understand completely, I always use this phrase, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Just select one answer, right? There's a 25% chance you'll be right. Do not leave a question unanswered because you don't know it. Just select any one of them. There are no negative points. We talked about the exam prep tools already. Here it is again, and we can also send it to you by email. I think the next slide will give you the, yes, we're just going to pause here a minute so that you can get the screenshot of this if you like. All the links are there. You can also do a QR code. The study guide is free. The study kit is $72. I assure you it's well worth spending that $72. Remember, this exam is coming to you for free. So don't try to scrounge there. Save your time. Then there's Quizlet is very good. It's completely free of charge. The Quizlet is kind of giving you an idea how it is. Online course, of course, is a 3-hour online program. Again, it's free. Please do it. The practice exam is a very, very good exam. It's $25 US. Again, it's money well spent. So if you buy the study kit for $72 and the exam, so within $100, you can get a very good way of preparing for this exam. So don't take it lightly. Spend that money. You're saving a lot of money by not paying for this exam. So I really urge you to consider this. Wakar? Yeah, so this is about the practice. There are 2 practice exams. There is a $25 exam for 1 attempt and the $40 for 2 attempts. You can screenshot this if you've got any questions on this. And you will get your exam immediately after that. Before that, let's just open the floor now for questions and a group photograph. So everybody, please turn on your cameras so we can see you. And then, Vakar, we can close this. We don't need to ask that, yeah. And you can please unmute yourself. And so that if you have any questions, we can ask those questions now.
I saw just one question. How important it is to know the local laws, Dubai laws for this exam? For
you
example,
don't need to know. There is no question about the Dubai law. They will not ask you about law 27. They'll not ask you about law 6 of 20. They won't ask you any questions about any law. The concepts are all general. Okay, so they'll say governing documents, but they will not ask you about a particular governing. For example, they will not say anything about the association constitution in Dubai says this. They will not ask you any question about that. They will just say, you know, how important are governing. I mean, if you need to know the rules of engagement in a community, what would you refer to? Something like that, right? And then governing documents may be one of those choices, but it will not ask you anything specific.
So just one more question. I have done this M200 series 3 courses.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
For the courses that I have done, I have received the study material.
Yeah.
Suppose I just want to go through the study material for the other 3 courses, where I can download it. Is there any way I can download it?
What do you mean study material? But you already have the manuals, right?
I have the manuals for the 3 M200 courses I have done.
Correct. Yes.
I haven't done it for example, risk management.
But you won't get it unless you do it, right? So yes, only if you do the courses that you will get the study material. Otherwise, you will not get it.
Oh.
Yeah.
There is any other place where I can get related material to read?
Again, CAM ICB website. Your CAM ICB website is the best resource for you. All those QR codes we sent you, that's the best. Believe me, you'll have enough and more material with them, far more than what we discussed today. The challenge is that nobody goes and we keep on telling you, it's free, download it. There are only $100 is the maximum that you will spend, which is well worth spending, because several people who have passed have personally told me that they spend this $100, the $70 and the $25 or whatever it is, and they pass the exam. So I urge you, don't be worried about this. Not a lot of money. It's just the 360 dirhams. It's well worth it. You are getting $315 rebate already. You're getting it for free. Everybody else in the world has to pay for this exam, $315. It's free for you. So please spend that $100 and it's free. Believe me, we don't get any payment for any of this, right? We are doing this as a service to all of you. We don't get a penny. We're just doing it for your sake. But for your own sake, we tell you, please invest that money to do something.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That's all from me.
There was a question from Thomas on related to last, that how will they know whether the work is
I'm putting in the room. Let me take this, right?
urgent or on the question. How do we know if the work is urgent or low urgency based on the question? So you have to make that judgment if it is small or no.
Can we request those who are not speaking to please put their phone on silent, on mute, so that we aren't disturbed? Thank you. Go ahead, Vakar, you were saying something?
Yeah, so the question will not specify. So question gave you if you have to go to a contractor, it will usually be a work which is complex, which is not long-term. It will take long time to do that, so that you cannot ask your association regular staff to do it. And it requires supervision. So you can't supervise. If it's a short thing, like painting a small piece of, small section of a wall, that's an example, and remodeling your lobby. So just compare these two works. You will not ask your own staff to do the lobby because it requires expertise, skills, supervision, and it takes a long time, maybe a month or 2 months. So you can't ask your regular association staff to spare their time and do that.
But at the same time, what if there's an emergency, for example, a pipe breakage, which are or something of that sort, which is of a high urgency and which cannot be done by our FM team.
So nothing.
I'm just analyzing it in a
A very
different.
valid question. This is a very valid question. When a pipe breaks and your water is flowing in the lobby, now here also, you have to think systematically. Will you wait to issue an RFP and get a contractor and a bid comparison, and then the contractor will mobilize, or you will immediately try to stop that water?
We will definitely will try to do the urgent action, but at the same time, what if it's something that cannot be done by the FM?
You have to segregate the works. If a pipe breaks, so that is not just the complete work. So the first phase is to stop the damage from increasing. That is phase one. Phase one, you do it. Now the urgency has stopped. Now there is a broken pipe which is isolated, requires special skills, special welding or special elbows and special contractors to fix it. Now you have time. So,
Right.
and if your association staff does not have that skill at all, they don't have that skill, then of course you can't do it. But if it is something that they can just a little bit, they can do it, yes. But so you have to read in the scenario or the question very carefully. If your association staff does not have that skill at all, it is highly skilled. For example, there is just one little mark on the window, which has to be cleaned from outside. Even though it is 5 minutes job, you will never send anyone untrained professional outside in the cradle or hanging from the rope.
Right.
You'll tell the tenant or the owner, wait, it will take maybe 1 month to get the contractor, but only a specialized contractor will come and do that. Maybe
it's very important, guys, to understand that look at the context the exam is also written in. In the United States, associations are allowed to hire people directly. Okay, and that's why the question has come about. For us, it's not the same thing. For us, all the contractors are outside contractors. But when they're talking about association staff, they're talking about staff that they have hired directly. Now, in comparison, it is people like who are already working with us. Those, the team that is already managing our team. They're not experts. They're the team that are, cleaning, they're just, fitters, pipe guys, So we have to look in the same context. So don't get too deep into it, but just understand from the context. Okay. Like Ali said, our AMCs, right? They're not specialists. They are the people who are managing our communities as is. Right. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Hi, good morning, Jeevan. Good morning, Waqar. How are you guys doing?
Hey, good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thank you for a good presentation. Very beneficial. Just a question on the examinations. Now, I heard earlier you mentioned there's some sort of a waiting list. So how long is the waiting list, and when can we sort of expect some?
Okay, so to answer your question, we have a 270 people waiting list. All right, and now this the reason we have such a big Kanakraj, am I right? Is it 270?
Yes, almost 280.
280, it's even more than I thought. Okay, now why did this waiting list happen? It happened because of I could say two main reasons. One reason is that the people attend the first exam. There were 25. We could only have 25 people because of the social distancing issues. Out of the 25 people, maybe 15 people failed, or maybe 17, or sometimes even 20 people have failed. So because these 20 people and only 5 people passed, those 20 people again got back into the pool. This is one reason. The other reason, which has really become a problem, is out of 25 people, 7 people don't show up. Or sometimes even 10 people don't show up. They just don't show up. They don't even tell us that they're not coming. So what happens is, two things happen here. One is that instead of having 25 people there, now we have 15 people there, or maybe 20 people there. And those people, we lose those extra seats. And now these people come back later and say, okay, we want to participate again. Now, why are people doing this? Which I think is totally unfair, because there's no penalty. It's free. Right? Okay, I don't feel like doing it today. I'm not prepared enough. I feel sick, all sorts of things, excuses. And they come back in the pool. And because of this, people failing and people coming back in the pool, this waiting list has expanded, which I think is very unfair. And so from now onwards, we have recommended that those people who do not show up for the exam will be blacklisted. and they will be put at the last of the list. And if people who don't consistently come, they will have to pay the full fee if they want to participate. I think it's fair, because it's very unfair to those people who have to keep waiting because these people have not shown up and not. And therefore, you have seen recently, Madeline have sent a list and she's given a deadline. Those people that respond immediately should be there. And if you don't, if you decide not to show up, if you get a seat and you decide not to show up, it will be taken seriously. That's the way, that's the reason why. Hopefully this year things are changing, because we're going to extend it to about 50 people a class, right? So the next one, I think KG is going to have 40 people, if I'm not mistaken. The one is happening on the 17th of Feb.
Yes.
So we're going to have 40
people.
students, 40 students in the next class. And then from going forward, they're going to be 50 students. So we are hoping now, with having more people, those dates will come closer. Having said that, believe you me, the more time you have is good, because you need time to prepare, attend other classes, come for sessions like this.
Thank you, Jivan.
Thanks. Anyone else? Any other questions?
Yes, good morning, Jivan and Vakar. Thank you so much for your time and for this workshop. It's really worth of our time.
Sure.
And,
thanks. Okay.
Just a few questions. First, a bit essential question. Definitely, you have been heard this question before. Why it takes 6 to 8 weeks to get the result of the exam? However, as per common understanding, it's computer testing of the dots should not take more than a couple of days, right?
Okay. So there are two exams available. The one is the US exam, which is the instantaneous exam. So you can do the US CMCA exam, which you can go to a testing center, but you have to pay for that. That's $315. And you go to the testing center. I'm not sure if it's available from home anymore, but you have to still go to a testing center, and it is completely online. That's the exam I took, by the way, many years ago. You do it online and you get the result instantaneously. Now, this is very similar to if you do the M100, if you do the 200 level closes, all of you have done that. No, you can just go on the computer and you get the answer. Now, in the international CMC version, the free version that we are doing, it's a paper and pencil based exam. So this has to go through a method. It goes through, we have to send a courier it back to the US. When they receive it back from the US, then they have to send it through the computer testing. Then they have to rechecked by other people. So it takes a few weeks to come. In fact, it's much lesser than it used to be before. I remember the first exam we took, it took 6 months. The second exam took 4 months, and so on and so forth. So that is the reason why it will take time. So at least 6 to 7 weeks, you will get the answer. That's the way it is at this point of time, till it's computerized. Once the international version of the CMC is computerized, then of course it will be you can do it directly on the computer, not paper and pencil. You'll get the answer immediately.
So then the second question would be, if there is an option, is there any plan to make our exam computerized?
Yes, 100%. 100%. That is the plan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so
I think by the end of this year, it will all be computerized. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. And the next question, we've mentioned and we've seen the glossary of terms for the exam. Is there any chance to get it in advance before the exam?
I'm not sure, KG. Maybe we can request CAM ICB to give that in advance.
Because, you know, I took a CMCA exam one time before, and I remember that it took me a lot of efforts to digest that terminology, not to understand the question, because it takes a lot of time to understand that, for example, the statute means the law, right? And the same. So in order to save that time and to implement our free time for resolving the question, so it might be.
I think we can certainly do it. KG, if you can speak to CAM ICB, I don't think there's a problem. If we can have the glossary, and then we can just circulate it or put it in our KIME website, Vakar, if that is possible.
It's in the study guide, page 17.
Yeah, I think it's available on the study.
It's available already.
Yeah.
The key terms are available on the study guide.
So it's already available. It's already available. It's in the study guide. So maybe we can extract it, KG, if we can extract it from this, or Vakar, if we can extract it from this study guide, and maybe we can put it on the KIME website or something like that.
Even we have it already, and I can share with Wakar to send it to all the people, even the participant, even the people not participate also. So at least
Okay,
since
and just put it on the website. I think that we put it on the CAIME website so people can download it whenever they want, right? So it's already available.
Yeah, Wakar, if you have it, fine. If not, ask me, then I'll share with you. Okay.
Okay.
By the way, KG is one of our proctors, and the other proctors, Jen. I think Jen is one of the proctors, right? So
Yeah,
we
it's
have.
not, it's under process. It's
Okay.
hopefully
Okay.
it will be get completed.
All right.
Thank
There's
you.
a question about timing.
Thank you.
Calculating time for 120 questions around 1 minute per question, as we only have 150 minutes. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. That's why it's the exam, and it's a difficult exam. That's why getting the CMCA is such a important credential, and it's globally accepted. It is truly globally accepted. That's the difference. Any other questions before we conclude?
Yeah. Everyone give a big smile. I don't know. Jeevan, take a screenshot also, yeah, just in case mine doesn't work. Right. Done.
Okay, then thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you to Wakar and Jeevan. Thank you to Wakar and Jeevan. It's great things. Nowhere in the world will get this kind of sessions. The first time, CAIME chapter, we are doing it. So we are example to others. We lead as an example always. But people have to get this benefit. It's great thank you to Jeevan and Wakar.
No.
And even it's not like exams happening now. Jeevan has pushed that CAIME ICP to consider for this exam for Dubai based, and also that frequency. Even he fought for that recently to tell them to increase the seats to 50 people to get all those you guys to get benefit. My humble request to utilize it and maximize it and be prepared and come. And if you get a more CMCA qualified, that it gets rewarded by the chapter as well. And the people who works behind. You could imagine, even the holidays, and they take a time and effort to prepare such a presentation, come sit with you 2 hours to spend. It's all we as volunteer to make sure that the betterment of the industry. So we recognize both of your effort, Jeevan, and I humble request every single person to take it seriously and move forward. Big thank you, both of you.
Thank you, Mark, KG, and everybody. And I just want to make a point here that we have the community associations in Institute CAIME, what we call the CAIME Middle East chapter, which I used to be the president until the end of last year. Now we have Wakar, who's the president. We have KG as a board member, and we really have a great board in place. I request you to support them. If you're not a member of CAIME, please join, because we're going to have a lot of these sessions. And by the way, just to tell you, we are not the only ones having these workshops. There are some other chapters in the world having this workshop, but they are paid. So Wakar and I just found out a chapter that is actually doing a workshop, but they're charging everybody, I think, $60 or something to do this thing. So we are the only one that is free. So, and this is going to be also.
Can I please add, thank you guys, that was really amazing. I tried to join as a student and a volunteer, but many of the links aren't working. So please look into that. Looking forward to meeting you guys when I'm in Dubai.
Thanks. Thank you, Samara. Samara, we just met through LinkedIn, I think maybe yesterday.
Yes, we did,
and
yes.
she's in the Netherlands, and she's moving from the Netherlands to Dubai. So welcome, Samara. We look forward to
live half
having
and
you.
half.
Okay.
But the situation is that I've done all these courses abroad, and I'm very keen to fill my knowledge gap for Dubai, because as you've mentioned rightly, with the new changes in law in 2019, a lot of the rules that apply internationally have changed, especially in the owners association. They're completely different. Actually, so I have so many questions, and as you know, I've been writing to a lot of you know me through LinkedIn. I pass through you a lot. So how can it's not the session to ask, but if anybody can help me close my knowledge gap, that's my question.
So maybe this is not the session, but we can have a separate session on that. But I would say that one of the best ways to, to learn and continue learning is to join the chapter. The chapter,
Yes,
of course, because of
absolutely.
COVID and all, things have been a little bit difficult to get people, but every month we have a meeting. We had an excellent session the other day online with a leading lawyer spoke at that
Oh,
session. I
really?
don't know who was. Yes, it
Is
was
it
a very good
recorded?
session.
Do you have
It,
it
I
recorded?
don't think it was recorded. Was it recorded, Waqar? I can't recall. Maybe it was not
Oh, I
recorded,
missed
but
it.
the next one we are going to have in person. We have invited her again. I don't know if it's for the next one or
Oh,
the
fabulous.
one after that. But the Kaimi sessions, the Kaimi meetings happen every month. The last,
Okay.
it used to be last Thursday of the month. I think it's being shifted to the last Friday now. And
Yeah.
there is a beautiful session with the great speakers. And then after that, the fun part starts. There's a social gathering. People get to know each other. They get to know the industry. People get jobs and all sorts of things happen out of that as well. So please do join in for that session. And
How
we'll be
can I
glad to
do
invite.
that? Do I just attend? Because I mean, I
Just
know a lot of you, and I can just tag along with.
yeah, you can just attend. You just follow us on LinkedIn. We always
Okay.
put. I live on LinkedIn, as most of you know. So you will find everything that's happening from our LinkedIn. Plus, we have some amazing social media efforts done by Cheryl. I think Cheryl is around here, and Anna and many of the people in the team. They do some amazing social media work. Again, all volunteer, free of charge. Nobody makes any money. Everybody's spending all their
Absolutely,
time
of
and
course.
effort for the benefit of the organization. And we're very grateful to the president, Waqar, KG, and the board for really putting on a great show. And so with that, I'm going to just stop the recording. I just realized that the recording